Welcome to the Succeed with Software podcast, brought to you by SuiteDash. Today's episode is from one of the bi-weekly Q&A webinars. To participate live, just follow the link in the description to sign up and submit your questions. Be sure that you're subscribed on YouTube and following us on all social media to get the latest videos and updates about new and existing features. All right, so let's get started. Okay, welcome everyone. This is Mike. I'm the founder and CEO of SuiteDash. Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Welcome to the SuiteDash Q&A webinar. All right, so let's get started today by having everyone jump into the chat. And please just let me know that you can hear me. Let me know that where you're joining us from. That'd be good. Kind of get to know each other a little bit before we get started. It's a nice turnout today. Oh, Quentin from the Netherlands. Hello, sir. How are you? Welcome back. Hi, Joel from Atlanta. Nice to see you. Yep. And Quentin, and I'll say this just for everyone who's here. I think it's pretty obvious, but yes, this webinar is a place you can come as many times as you'd like. Listen, just absorb, to ask your questions. Cassandra from Charlotte. Cassandra, I grew up in Charlotte. I am from your neck of the woods. Are you native or you moved there? I grew up on Lake Norman back when there was nothing there except for farms and a lake a very long time ago. Moved from Portland. That's cool. Yeah. There's a culture shock. Well, it's not so bad. Matthews used to be a few people and some cows, and now it's really, really big deal there. It's the new hot and the place to be. Good. And hey, good, Quentin. I'm glad that your tips worked out. Let me turn on the chat so everybody can see. That's nice to hear, Quentin. Maybe we can solve some other issues today. I hope. And hey, Bold, that's a cool name, from Ottawa. Nice to see you. Okay, guys, we'll go ahead and get started today. Anybody else that's jumping in, you're welcome to just say hi. There's not really a set format for the webinar in general. We call it the Q&A webinar. We'll start with questions. I have some questions that you guys submitted in front of me here, and I have yours, Quentin, this time. So we'll make sure everything worked perfectly. Let me see. I think so. I have questions from Bold. I have questions from Deborah. Don't see Deborah yet. And so we'll make sure we try to cover as many as possible here. But let's go ahead and get started with, I do see Bold's questions. Let's start with that. All right. Bold asks, any update or ETA on a community feature where members of the same circle can communicate with the group or DM each other in a multi-channel environment to keep conversations by subjects and threaded conversations, that's what you meant, where people can post formatted text, links, images, videos, emojis, etc. Bold, are you sure that you don't have our strategic planning meetings bugged? Because this sounds like the exact description of what will be a power-up. I'll be very clear about that. This will be the community power-up. And what it will be is exactly as you described, a community feature that you can dynamically add or assign circles, teams, individual staff members, individual CRM members, company/contacts, to, and selectively based on your configuration, they would have access to that community and therefore all the interaction inside that community. So in general, right now, before this feature, our goal has always been to keep clients, companies from seeing each other in general, right? Anytime, any business you're usually dealing with, they're not really excited or very, very, very protective about one client knowing what all the other clients. And so in general, as a client portal, our number one focus in many cases is to make sure that each client can see what that client can see and nothing else, and no other information about any other client. But as we continued along a path of expanding the capabilities, we've heard more and more feedback over the years about, specifically, I think, from coaches, the coaching community, the consultant community, and community seems to be, and not seems to be, it is a very powerful value add for certain businesses, in that they can allow those who they are serving to also help each other, feedback to each other, and enhance that interactivity. And that brings a lot of value both to the business and to the consumer and to the customer. And therefore, it's something that they may not. What's nice about it, right, is if it's done well, it's a sticky feature, as we say in this business, meaning they might not like something that happened to them in your business for whatever reason, but they might say, well, yeah, but I don't want to lose access to that community because there's a lot of cool things happening there. I get good advice there. I've enjoyed my time there. I don't want to get cut out of that. And so therefore it becomes a nice electronic / digital product that you could add and promote and roll into a value add that may be the difference between losing a customer and keeping a customer in some cases. And of course, I'm not trying to be that dramatic, but the point is, altogether, it's another thing that you can add and manage through the platform to add value to your services. So, Bold, what solopreneur? I see. Tell me what niche you're using. I'm just curious how you would use it. I think you say here, I don't want to be more public than you would want to be, but what niche business are you in and you're thinking of for this capability? I'm just curious. All right. A community for coaching. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Makes sense. And what's cool about it is that you would be able to create multiple communities, right? The functionality would be very similar, but in the case that you would want to create multiple communities, maybe around each one of your product offerings, right? So you can say, oh, owners of I don't know what has popped in my head, but a Tesla. I'm not one of these Tesla fanboys, but just owners of a Model Y or owners of a Model X. So you can have your own community and talk about your vehicle and your gripes and your praises and all these things, right? But in general, it could be anything. But you could have multiples around it. And in general, I don't want to confuse you, but in general, these communities of different types would probably follow the same categorization and typing that you have in place with something like circles. It won't be exactly like circles. Circles are completely different things. I don't want to confuse you, but think of it in the same way, in kind of that same capacity, and you probably end up typing them that way. But yes, and so as far as an ETA, that was the question. I would look at something like Q4 of 2023, and possibly, depending on the development speed and time, into 2024. But I don't think so. I think by the end of this year, we would have that in place. Okay, good. I'm glad that's good. Anybody else here have a use case for that? Maybe just chime in so we can see something you would be interested in. Because I'll give you a little bit of a sneak peek about how this might work, is that for our current customers, we will offer a very, very discounted rate to get access to this initially. So as a thank you, as an opportunity, as something to say thanks to our current community who provides valuable feedback, etc. You'll be able to lock in and be grandfathered at a rate that is very, very discounted, and that will last for the life of that power up, as long as your subscription there remains active. So anyway, there is a little bit of inside baseball there, as they say. All right. Let's go ahead and move. Is that the only question that you have, Bold? If you have another one, you're welcome to drop it in, but I'm going to move to, I see Fran has a question. Okay, that's the main one. Good. Oh, I'm glad that we're able to answer that. You're welcome, sir. Quentin has some questions. Kathy, let's see. And anybody that's here, please drop in questions, and we can just start in a certain direction. But let's go with Quentin's questions, because I have something right here. So Quentin says, last time you helped me with contracts, worked out great. Excellent. So if you have time, let's see how we can automate invoicing from the contract, especially the part about some services being a one-time fee and others monthly. Okay. Let's start with a couple of just statements, and then we'll move into some questions here, Quentin. So our invoicing toolkit is one of the few that I'm aware of that allows you to create an invoice with both one-time items and subscription items in the same invoice. And when that invoice is paid with a credit card, then the one-time items are satisfied immediately, and the subscription item is the subscription plan, which is how this works. And I can show an example here in a minute. The plan becomes an active subscription. So this is a good, here we go. And that subscription is then established, and we'll continue to charge that credit card based on the configuration of the plan until canceled, or until the plan runs its course, which can be a limited course. So you could say 6 payments and that's it, or 6 payments forever, that kind of thing. So let's just be really okay, Cassandra. Let's be really. Oh, and by the way, I think, Cassandra, you just be aware, if you post anything, it will end up on the screen here, but it's okay. There's no dumb questions. Don't worry. I'm here for exactly this, and also to just hear how the question is asked. Sometimes gives me a lot of insight as to where we can do better, in the sense of being more clear, being more accessible. Okay, so let's just be really clear about plans and subscriptions. And I think this is a good, and I'll do this in a way that maybe we can reuse this soundbite. So as education, a subscription is like your Netflix subscription. It means once it's established, they're going to, in the background, without any input or approval from you from now on, your initial yes, I want to do this, is your approval. And every month they're going to come and take an increasingly in higher and higher amount, it seems, from Netflix. But yes, I think it's now like $16 or whatever it is. And that's going to happen silently until you say stop. Okay, that's what a subscription is. It happens in the background. That is different from a recurring invoice. Okay, a recurring invoice means that every month an invoice will be generated that then is sent to a client. The client sees it, and then they take a manual action to pay it, either by credit card. In your portal, they can do that. Click, enter credit card number, and it's paid. That's a manual action. They have to do it. Or they write a check and send it to you in the mail, and then you record the payment. That's a traditional business to business workflow that requires invoices to be sent, purchase order numbers or whatever you have to do, but that's all very, very above water. It's all happening. The manual action has to be taken, paper trails, all that. That's recurring invoicing. This is different. This is like Netflix subscription example. Okay. So when you create a plan, you're defining you're configuring the details of the plan and when you do that, you're saying any subscription to this plan will follow these details. And you could say, I want to charge them every 1 month, never expires. Or you could say for a certain number of cycles. This is annoying. I'll have to fix this. You can have a trial period. You can set a price, all these things. So you see what's happening here. So you're defining the plan, which then defines every subscription to this plan. Okay. All right. So this is just a single plan. Now that's different from subscriptions, which are these are subscriptions that are individual to individual users with IDs and all that were created from this plan. Okay. Can you make templates for those? No, Quentin, I think I know where you're going here, but that's interesting. Okay, I think this is clear. This is a list of the subscriptions that were created from various plans, and this tells you which plan the subscription was taken from, and this goes until canceled, as you see here. Now, I think what Quentin is saying, yes, exactly, Quentin. All right, let's delete this one because, of course, there are no bugs in SuiteDash. As few as possible. All right, so what Quentin is saying here, I believe, is that you would like to set this price, for example, based on the value of a custom field. Something like that, Quentin. Much like, yes, exactly, like the dynamic invoice items that we talked about before, right? Okay. All right. Well, it's a no. The answer is a no. But it's not a no forever no. It's just a no for now no, because it seems like that would be, I could see the use case there. And I don't see a blocker here because here's what could happen, right? Say you had a variable amount here. And now let's say that that's the case. And then every subscription would be uniquely priced based on that custom field. Okay. That's interesting. So we have dynamic items in an on-demand invoice generator, but those are only one-time items. So what you're saying is you may be interested in using like a dynamic subscription item. Got it. All right, let me make a note in my notes. 1 second. Okay, Quentin. Makes sense. Exactly. Well, yes, and this is what we do here. Okay, and this is why these webinars are, at the end of it, I like to thank you guys, because this is why these webinars are very valuable, and why SuiteDash is maybe different than most software that you deal with, is that I'm here for a very good reason. I'm here to listen, and I'm here to hear what you guys do every day. Boots on the ground is much different than what we do here every day. We try to make your jobs easier, your life easier. And it's up to you, in some cases, to tell us how to do that, right? Because SuiteDash it'd be different if we were like a super niche specific platform where, we have 3 people working here or 10 people working here that all came up in that industry and we all know it backwards and forwards. That's not what we do here. What we are building is a generic toolkit that can be used in any business, and that's for sure. We have hundreds of different types of niches using the platform. Some comically different than you might imagine. Just really, but awesome when you see like dog walkers and I mean, I can't. I wish I should keep a list of the things that we see. And I don't mean comical that that's not a good business. I just mean comical that we would have never anticipated the use cases, and people are so creative, and that's what's so cool. But what it means is I don't understand the ins and outs of those businesses, right? I've never done that. And nobody here has. So we rely on the boots on the ground, you who are in the trenches, to come to us as a community and say, hey, this is all great, but it would really help me if this happened or if that happened. All right. So thanks, Quentin. It's on my notes, which is the first step to getting further. Something to add is there's a list of custom fields. So like this service 2. Are you asking if this is a placeholder, like a service? You mean like an item, a placeholder for an item to be listed in a contract, I think is what you're trying to get to, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's take it one step at a time. I have one more layer to discuss that I think you will agree would be very useful in your use case, but we're not quite there yet. And it's a coming soon kind of thing. So let's make sure everybody's questions are taken care of. And then if we have time, we'll go back and work on that. Okay, Cassandra, thanks for coming. All right, so Cassandra says about the CRM specifically, how much info is required for search of company or contact? Exactly 1 letter. 2, is there a way to complete task from the calendar view? And 3, is there a way to view the company associated with the contact in the event call? John Smith, but which company? Help setting next step once a task appointment is complete. Event generator to require next step once the task is completed. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's take them one at a time, Cassandra. I'll do my best here. So, how much info is required for search of a company? Just a couple of characters. I think it's more than 1 though, because what can happen is, especially in large databases, unless you limit to like, you got to give me at least 2 or 3 before we start the search. Otherwise, the search can be very bogged down. But here, you're looking for a company name right here. So let's just do 2. I think can work. So there's 2. I think it's just 1. Is this what you mean, Cassandra? I think this is where you're talking about. Same thing in contact. When you're doing the filter search there, that should work. And then number 2, is there a way to complete tasks from the calendar view? We found duplicates, but wasn't sure why. Duplicate contacts or companies? Mm-hmm. Well, SDA says any way to keep that showing all the time. So one of the features that's coming soon, we don't have something that shows all the time like that. Because we did, somebody would ask us if we could hide it, first of all. So what we have coming soon is a universal company or CRM search, essentially, and it'll work much like this feature works on Mac OS. It'd be a keyboard shortcut. When you're active in the browser, you'll use a keyboard shortcut to launch a search, which would then move you very quickly to that specific CRM dashboard, we call it. And then from here, you would be able to execute whatever action you were about that for that particular company or contact. And from here, you would not even really need the search anymore. You can click here really quickly and change companies very quickly by just doing a quick search and switch. So the idea behind this interface is, once you're in this place, we're moving as fast as we can to give you as many tools as possible from here to accomplish as many different things as you can from this particular interface, right? So all this menu these two powerful menus. You can set favorites. If you're constantly needing to assign a flow, you want to favorite that, and then you can just drag it to the top using this icon, right? And now every time you open it, boom, it's just right there. So you're reducing the number of clicks, you're reducing the number of hunt and pecks as much as possible. So that's the goal behind this. And that's in the search is a great way to. Oh, hey, Kathy. Oh, good. Okay, so I have your questions, Kathy. So yes, that's the best way to get away from that. And Kathy, since I'm here, your question, why can't I delete tags from a company? You can do it by clicking right here. You can add tags and delete tags. You can manage the tags there, and you can delete them here. Same as with circles and audiences. You can manage them perfectly right there. I believe, if your question is, did that, it gave me an error that I can't delete it. Okay. If you then the best thing I can say is, since I can't replicate it right here, is to do a screencast video and send it to help@suitedash.com, and they will try to identify what is unique in your account. So thank you, Kathy. That really is helpful. And for everyone here, screencast video is the #1 way to describe your issue, because just like sending text messages back and forth, that famous Key and Peele skit, and we all have had that experience where it just doesn't come off the right way. Like you're saying one thing and the other person's hearing another thing. In support of software, it's very much the same thing, like a game of telephone. When it's coming out of your keyboard and onto that page, it makes perfect sense to you. When we see it with no context, it really, we can interpret it. We can come up with 3 different scenarios, what that really means and what do you mean? So then it just, it's not a stop sign. It's just okay, well, now we have to go back and forth 2 or 3 times to try to clarify. And then unfortunately, sometimes that can feel annoying to you because you're like, why don't they get it? Well, we're trying to be patient. We're trying to really understand the question. But when you create a screencast video, you'd be surprised how visual cues that you may not even really understand what it means. But to us, we've seen it so many times. If we look at that visual cue, helps us zone right in on what you're trying to say. Okay, got it. And then you get really quick responses, really quick resolutions. Okay. Let me continue in the sense of our last conversation for Cassandra, and then we'll transition to Kathy because we do have questions there as well. Okay, so completing a task from the calendar view. You can create tasks and you can see tasks, but completing is something I want to know about for sure. But yes, right here, mark complete, but only ones that are assigned to you, Cassandra. Okay, I thought so, but so if I click mark complete here, it'll just mark this complete. You can see it disappears, and that's it. Okay, so that's the answer to that. We can extend if you need. Is there a way to view the company associated with the contact in the event? I'm going to answer this one a different way because make sure that you understand what the way that we handle companies and contacts. When you set a company as the target, that company is the target of that event. Okay, so if you let's look at the contacts list, and to make this most clear, I could probably spend 30 minutes on this explanation to make sure, but I'll try to do it really quickly. You see in this list, there are these clients, these contacts that do not have companies, okay? And therefore they don't have this star, which means primary contact. Now you have these other contacts that are associated with companies, but these are completely different entities, okay? Elizabeth Robinson here, she's just an individual. She just happens to represent this company, but this company also acts as an individual. I don't want to be confusing, but acts as a separate entity in our platform, meaning you're going to assign invoices to the company. You're going to have an event to the company. when something is needed, when an action is needed by the company, meaning typing on a keyboard or clicking a mouse, we're going to need a human being with fingertips to do that. So Elizabeth Robinson is the one assigned to do that on behalf of the company. And therefore, when she logs in, and let's do an impersonate here. Actually, let's do it differently because I want you to see this person has two companies. Let's do an impersonate, and you'll see you can impersonate this contact and see what they see directly. But understand that this is their individual mode, means I'm paying my personal cell phone. But when I go here, now I'm representing this company, and now I can pay this company's. I'm gonna pay the company invoices. Okay. So in the sense of this event that you're asking about, view the company associated with contact and event. In general, if you're working with a company, you would be viewing the company and the company would be viewing the events separately. So I don't know that answers your question, but in most cases, what I'm trying to say is that if you have an event that is assigned to a contact, like an individual, then it's just going to be for that individual. Assigning it to the individual does not infer any company. It's them as a person, an individual person. The difference between a company that owns a building where they are paying a landscaper to landscape the building, the office, and then the CEO asking them to come also landscape and cut the grass at his personal house. That's the difference. The CEO is an individual person. He pays the landscaping company as an individual, but he also represents the office, the company, and he pays the landscaping person from a different account, from a different everything for the company, right? And our system allows you to work with that CEO in both capacities. So if the landscaping company is using SuiteDash, they could bill the company for the office and bill the CEO for the personal house. And the CEO would have that switcher where he can go or he or she could go and say, okay, I want to pay my personal bill for my house landscaping. They'll pay that. Then they switch to the company and they can pay that. Okay. If needed, but you can also disable that individual mode if it's not needed. There's some complexities there. And I'm going to move on to not spend 30 minutes on this explanation, but I'll give you some tips later. So in general, the company would be here. What I think we could do, though, in this case, Cassandra, is if we list the company, we could also link out to the CRM dashboard and when you go to a CRM dashboard for a company, here is a good example. The primary contact is here, and you can then click here and see all the details of the primary contact. So if you wanted to see their phone number or their email, it would be here if the data was populated. All right, I hope that's clear. And then one more thing to say about events. Events are designed as a sales cycle follow-up tool. In fact, we are considering renaming them in the future to follow-ups or something similar. It'll become more clear as we move forward and implement new features, but you should think of these as the ability to, when you meet someone new as a salesperson or in a sales cycle, you can apply what we call an event template, which is a predefined set of events that go on your calendar related to that person at some time intervals, like say every 7 days, just as an example. It can be much more complex than that, but the idea is that you as a sales cycle person trying to make sure that you don't forget about following up with this person, with this potential client, is that you apply this event template, and then on your calendar out into the future gets zipped out, these 6 or 7 events that are serving the purpose of letting you erase that from your mind and concentrate on the next thing. And then every day you get on your calendar, you say, okay, I have to follow up today with that person that I met 7 days ago. And so then the CRM does its job. It basically reminds you to contact and follow up. Yeah. So that's the purpose of events. Help setting up a next step once a task appointment is complete. Event generator. That's a good way to do it. I think let's just go to events generators. We're just talking about them. So what you could do, Cassandra, is an automation that would trigger an event generator. So, say this consists of a follow-up of 7 days or just one or two events. And then you'll name this appropriately so you understand how to reference it in an automation. And then in an automation, which I'm going to shortcut to get to the interface, but there's places all over the platform where you can access this interface for automations and trigger them. But here you can just say apply event generator, and there you go. Okay, and then in your example, when the task is completed or the appointment is completed or whatever the completion event is, the target, who is the client in that automation pipe, will be identified to the automation, and then that's all we need, and we'll apply the event generator to the target of that specific automation of that flow, and again, it can be applied multiple times. All right, does that make sense, Cassandra? Are we close? Some of that is helping. Okay. I don't think it was perfect. The questions, and we're kind of in the same ballpark. I think you'll have to do some experimenting and things like that to make sure that you really are setting anything up properly. And if you have more questions, you're welcome to come back. We'll try to do our best. Okay. Yes, Fran, like a sales pipeline map. We do have plans to extend and work on our on enhancing and extending the sales side with deals, more deal structure, more automation. And what I was talking about earlier, just to not leave it unsaid about events, the reason we might rename them is that we are developing now a new feature we call meetings. Okay. And the meetings is a different functionality than events, and I'll explain quickly. So we have events now, which I just explained, serve as a sales cycle follow-up that can be pre-programmed and applied on the fly or in an automation. We have appointments, which appointment types can be set per person, and they can be defined, and then can be booked, and there's a complicated algorithm that goes and blocks other things, et cetera, et cetera. Meetings is the third part of that, and meetings will be that mechanism that will allow you to invite multiple clients, multiple staff members if you so choose, attach a Zoom meeting, attach a Google Meet meeting, and everybody comes in, gets it all on their calendar. Everyone has it on their calendar. So you can do it you could use it for staff meetings. You could use it for webinars. You could use it for any kind of group event. That's what this purpose of meetings will be. And we'll have, meeting generators very likely eventually, so that we'll be able to automatically, we'll have recurring meetings. That's the most dynamic piece that we'd like to move towards. So if you wanted to have a recurring staff meeting every Monday morning, you could do that, and everybody would have it on their calendar, receive reminders, jump in, the Zoom link would be there, all those things. Meeting notes, all this. So we can really extend in a long direction using the meetings mechanism. Yep. So, communities and webinars for those communities, or, whatever you want to call them, workshops or however people, whatever. Meeting feature, second half of this year, again, before the end of the year. Really, I can't really say. Still in the planning phases here, but pretty well defined. We're in the mock-up phase is I guess the best way to say it. We want to have really good mock-ups, define them, go through them multiple times, make sure that all the parts we want for the first iteration are there, and then that passes to development only at that point. Good to hear the word. So that's a good direction, I think. Bold is saying good. I like it too. I think it's very needed, and also when meetings is released, that is likely when this renaming will happen, to make it very clear what the functionality of events is. All right. Hope that makes sense. I think it does. Okay, let's move to Kathy's questions. Kathy? Yes, Kathy. Awesome. Good, Bold. I think it's a good idea. I believe that I will give you some insider information about reseller as well, but let's get Kathy's questions answered, and I want to make sure everybody gets served. But reseller is a huge deal, and I think you'll appreciate the changes that are planned soon. Okay. So Kathy says, I entered a contact and somehow it says that I invited them, which can happen, Kathy. Yeah. Especially if it's you're early in the platform. So what's Kathy saying, and I'll finish the question, is this checkbox is checked by default. It actually has a setting, which I'll show you in a minute. If this is checked, they will receive that invitation, Kathy. But what Kathy's saying is, I clicked it by mistake, or it's not really what she wanted, and how to uninvite them at this point. We don't have a mechanism for that, Kathy, but but I saw your question early this morning, and we've already had a conversation. This is something we'll work to develop for in response to that, in response to we'll call it the Kathy feature. Next week we'll have something for that. But here's the limitation. We can't pull back an email. We can't bring back that email. So they're going to have that email. What we can do is change them back to uninvited status and invalidate the link that's in the email. So that was a Google April Fool's joke 5 or 6 years ago, where they said that it was email undo or something, where you could somehow like undo an email and take it back. It's not possible. That was what's funny about it. You can't do it. Once we send it out that pipe and it goes to their email provider and goes into that server, that database, there's no getting it back. So we can't do that. But see where you have invited and not invited status, we'll make a new functionality here that will allow you to change this to set uninvited, probably what it would say. And that will probably give you a warning dialogue and say, okay, you sure you want to do that? Because they'll have an email from you, they'll have a link, and unfortunately I think it's probably best that link just goes to your login page or something like that. We'll redirect it away from the intended functionality. What do you mean? Put them in, and if you put them in as inactive, they will not be able to log in. Yeah, that will do it as well. Mm-hmm. But then you can't work with them. You can't, what I mean is you won't be able to assign them to portal pages and assign them to circles. So they'll kind of disappear from the platform in general. So I'm not sure that's the right approach. But yes, that would work. That excludes them from the portal completely. Mm-hmm. Or what you could do it as just a really brute force workaround, I guess is the way to say it. It's just delete them. So to delete a user in SuiteDash, you must first set them inactive. This protects you by saying, okay, all right, you made them inactive. You notice there's no delete option here. First you set inactive, then you're going to go to the inactive contacts, and now you have the option to delete. Now, and only after you do that, do these email addresses become available to set up a new user. So we have sometimes customers who didn't make it to this part of the document documentation. Notice how I said they just didn't make it there yet, which is fine. I get it. I do the same thing. I'm guilty. I'll jump into software and just try to use it and then only go to the documentation when I get blocked. But they'll say, well, why can't I reuse this email address? Saying this user's already taken it. And 9 times out of 10, the user is in the inactive list. So you make them inactive, then you delete. That's how it works. Okay. And then you can just remake them and make sure that you leave this setting unchecked, and that will put them in uninvited status. And I think you saw earlier that you can then, from the list, you can invite them, send invite or resend invite, depending on the status. Let me go here into CRM settings, the settings for CRM. And you can see that I thought that we had a feature for this. We do. I'm in the wrong place. Organization settings. I'm not seeing it. I think what we did. Okay, I think I remember now that what we did is we set what we call a memory on this checkbox. So what it means is last time you used it, if you left it checked, it'll be checked when you come back. If you uncheck it and create a contact, the next time you come here, it'll be unchecked. So it'll just basically adapt to whatever your preferred workflow is automatically without a setting. But I'm still suspicious that there's a setting somewhere where we allow you to force this as well. But I think it's there. I just didn't find it real quick. Other questions? You say, why can't my salesperson see all the contacts that are under the company? That's something we can enable. We discussed that this morning as well, based on this question. It should not interfere with the salesperson visibility. So what I think you're asking is your salesperson who's assigned to this particular company, Stan here, they should also be able to see Brad Pitt in addition to Harrison Ford. Is that correct? Because I want to make sure that if you click all contacts, where? Here. Okay. And you want to know she doesn't see that. And she has the salesperson role. Okay. Well, let me just be clear. I'm not saying that this is the answer, but I want to, whenever we talk about this concept, I want to make sure everyone understands the salesperson functionality. So salesperson is a role built around a sales cycle, and it's built around a sales team. And there are visibility options. One is shared and one is restricted. Okay. And the whole goal of this is to give you an option if you choose. Restricted is the most, I can't say restrictive, although that's the word I want to say. Restrictive is the most restrictive. It's the most aggressive, I'll say. And the idea is that if you have a sales team and they're all out there trying to get leads, prospects, clients, that there is the word called poaching in sales, where you don't want one salesperson seeing another salesperson's contacts, because then whether or not there's actual poaching trying to happen, they're all suspicious. They're all working on commission and all, these things. So in general, we try to have a construction that allows you to hide when a salesperson claims a contact or company, then they become invisible to other salespersons, and they can work them until an admin or someone you can change that salesperson. Yes, but not everybody can change it. So there's a lot of there's a lot of rules that can be rather that are not apparent as to why things are acting in that way, because it is intended to work kind of behind the scenes and allow them to function, but also protect that visibility. So that could be in play here. I would need to have a lot more information, but I did make a note here about this show all contacts, and we'll do some examination here related to that. If there's like 4 in there, okay. But what that in general, though, let me go back. This is just a link to the contacts list. It doesn't mean that show all contacts from this company. It's kind of like this: manage notes goes to the lead notes list. So this only links to the. Oh no, I'm wrong. Used to, now it does this. So you're saying that she doesn't see all of them. Could be that they're claimed. One possibility is that they're claimed by another salesperson on the contact level. We don't have anyone else. Mm-hmm. Are they okay? I got you. All right. So what I will do is add this to my notes for this session and do a little investigation. And I have your email address, Kathy, and I will. Fran should be here on July 4th. But yes, I will do that. We'll be proactive about looking at that and contacting you with a resolution or something like that. Okay. And then how a salesperson can change primary contact doesn't show up for her, possibly related to to the visibility settings. But are you set? Do you know if you're set at shared mode or restricted mode option here, Kathy? Not sure. Yeah. So that I would say if you're looking for a sort of an open, if all your sales, or especially if you're only have 1 or 2 salespersons in the organization, they're all friendly and nice and know each other, and shared is the place to be. Restricted is a little bit medieval in the way that it acts, because when I say the way it acts, if you have changing of a primary or something like that, we have to enforce all kinds of rules to make sure that we don't break the veil, essentially. So shared, it will probably react the best for you in that case. That's good. Okay. And you're saying that, just to be clear about that last part. The one explanation that I think is that sometimes this changing the salesperson. Are you saying she's the only salesperson? Okay, so then there wouldn't be another salesperson to change to. Maybe that's the reason. And then also the reason would be, another reason might be that she did not create the contact. So yeah, we'll do some additional clarification there. And I'm sorry, this salesperson visibility thing is, the logic is very deep, and I don't want to stand in confidence to explain every scenario. I would need to make sure before we talk about it, before we say, okay, this is what's happening, that's what's happening. And also I don't know all the variables based on your account, but good. Let's figure it out. We'll figure it out together, and then you'll have your answers, and we'll make sure that everything is working as intended there, which I think it should be, but we'll make sure. All right. ETA on support tickets. Fran, let's see. I mean, I can tell you same as I've told a couple in the past couple sessions. Think in terms of weeks. Don't think in terms of months. In terms of weeks. That's the best I can do. I hope that helps. Yep, it's coming. I can help here by I'm gonna do this in the most judicious way possible. We'll try to anyway. Okay, good. One second. Sorry. I think this will be good. Weird. Okay. Well, no, I can't actually. The developers are working there, and it's in the middle of some updates. So yeah, support tickets is there. It's functional. We're just adding the final touches. But I look at Fran. Here you go. The best update I can offer you is on YouTube. The session from Tuesday is there, and it's time coded, and I think it has a time code for discussion of upcoming support tickets and chat with clients. So it's about 5 or 6 minutes of me discussing exactly your question. You can go there and listen to it, and you'll have the best update I can offer you. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Yes, sir. Or ma'am. I don't know. I'm sorry. But I have to say sir or ma'am, because if I don't, my dad will somehow appear out of thin air and give me a smack on the head. So that's just the way I have to do it. Quentin had a question about a possible bug. Quentin, I already have something. I already have the QA team making sure on that. The one thing I would say is it's about the login placeholder. It's to make sure that you are accessing that from incognito and you're not crossing sessions with your admin somehow. But we'll find out. We'll make sure. And I do think it's probably working as it should, but let's do it. Do I have an example for remote chat? Quentin says, I can show you the interface. So remote chat looks like not like that. This. Here. Okay. So this is where we have some label issues here. I'm on a test account. I think that's what's happening. Do you have access to the Prime power up, Quentin? This happened once before. Yeah, not yet. So the remote chat is really nice. I mean, it's exactly like I'm still having some issues here on the labeling, but essentially you can create the remote chat, set all the options, set icons, everything. And then what happens is every conversation that comes in through the remote chat will become a channel here where you can be inside your account. You can you'll receive messages here and have these conversations until they're closed. As you see here, remote chat's been closed. So, and you can assign in each instance, you can designate which staff members are authorized to claim the chat or take the chat. So it'll come in, it'll get all right, Bold, thank you, sir. It will come in as not assigned to anyone, and all those people will see it and have access to claim it, take it, and then start working with that person. But there's a lot of built-in functionality there that I think you really like. I don't have the capability right now to show it to you. These test accounts look like they are. There's some work that's going on there related to chat with clients, which is something I discussed on Tuesday as well. A really nice new feature. Yep, and it is getting to our time frame here, so Bold had to run. But I think we've covered. Yes, there's a video somewhere. I think it's on YouTube. It's a preview video. I think it's on YouTube. we can look together. Maybe not. I can't remember. I know that I did a preview video for it at some point. But you can also look in the documentation, Quentin. Yeah, check out the documentation. I think that's the best place for you to sort of see what it's capable of and what it'll do. I will build a better example of it. I get caught between sometimes having like, and all of us do get caught between having some perfect example that we could show off, and then experimental examples where we're trying to just make sure everything is working, and we end up breaking the perfect examples. And yeah, it's just kind of a, our approach is to move as fast as possible to give you as much value as possible and react as fast as possible. So in some cases, that means that, the presentation or we have a little bit of a little bit of a mess here and there, when I say a mess, but where it doesn't matter, we don't spend a whole lot of time taking care of things that don't matter. We try to concentrate on things that do matter. Mark Zuckerberg, who I'm not saying I'm a fan of, but he's famously quoted as move fast and break things, which is, I'm not saying that's our mantra either, but it is in some cases. You can have completely perfect software, but guess what? Doesn't have any new features, because every time you introduce new features or you're trying to move another iteration, you have to go into a code base that is working fine and stick a crowbar in it sometimes and work with it, and then break it open and work with it and again, put it all back together. And so that has the capability of introducing bugs, and that will happen and does happen. But our mantra is we're going to do our best to avoid it. But if it does happen, we'll fix it as fast as possible. The benefit is clear to you that you pay some amount of money for a feature set, and then a day later, a week later, you have a new feature, 2 new features, 3 new features, things that you can use, things that you can. And not only that, but your feedback can get rolled into development relatively quickly. So it's a balance. It's a balance, and we do our best to try to land in the right spot there to give you as much progress, as much new and exciting functionality. And in general, our challenge is unique in that we're building around 15 different toolkits in a cohesive and interconnected way. So our challenge is a little bit bigger than most, and we're handling it fine, but for sure, it's not for the weak. So there will be cases where we have to rely a little bit more on the aggressive side of that scale to accomplish the goal. And I think that's expected and normal, and we hope worth it. I think so. All right. Anyone have a question that I can do in a couple minutes before I have to run? And you probably do too. If not, I think I'll say my goodbyes to you all, and thank you very much for stopping by. Great questions. Thank you, Kathy. I hope your questions are right. We will do our very best to get your answers for you. Quentin, thank you. Yes, could be the case, Quentin. It depends on the severity. It depends on a lot of things. Yes, we have a very structured way of dealing with these things, and the support team is looking into that's one thing. Then it's got to go to the dev team. Then it's got to be categorized properly there and moved. And depending on the severity, right? If it's obviously critical, then everything goes straight to the front of the line. Otherwise, it's assigned based on that by the project managers. So, I understand. Sometimes things can take 1, 2, 3 weeks, depending on the severity, which again is subjective. Your severity level and our severity level might be different. I get it. But I've also had plenty of experiences with software where I sent an email about something and never heard back at all, or heard back 3 weeks later, or, so again, this is all part of our balance, right? When we're trying to do a very good job. And it also means that hiring people or having people join this team is even more difficult than a single one-trick pony type software, because imagine trying to get up to speed with the complexity that we have. So when someone new starts, and it's difficult. So in many cases, we try to hire out of our community for the simple fact that those people are, they're already rounding first base, they're almost to second base. And now we have to just, we have to help them get to the rest of the way, but they're not starting from home plate. They're not starting from zero. So this is how we approach it. But anyway, I will take a look for you and make sure that whatever that is, we can try to expedite it. Make sure you get some relief there. Okay. Thank you again, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.